Have you ever bought a board game when your spouse said no? Have you ever won a game on an insane dice roll? Have you ever killed a dragon using only chopsticks? Do you text your friends to distract them from your current moves? Can you finish off a pizza in between your second and third turn? Can you ride a panda across the plains of Dewey? Do you have what it takes to stop an evil wizard from destroying your village? Do you tell your friends to call you Dungeon Master? Can you muster the strength to play one more game after 2 a.m.? Can you be the chosen one all the way up to bedtime? Have you ever dared to say no and pick your best friend's favorite character anyway? Have you ever randomly shouted nonsense because you thought it would be funny, and it wasn't? Well, we haven't done most of those things either, but we are willing to try. Join us as we explore the world of board gaming and all the crazy things that come with it. Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast.
Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Kennedy, and with me tonight is Rob.
Hello, hello.
So today we're doing something a little bit different. We played so many different games at Gen Con, and there were a bunch of different ones I really wanted to talk about in our What We've Been Playing segment. So we're just doing like an extra episode just on games that we played at Gen Con.
Boom.
So
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, man.
So, do you just want me to go off one by one, or do you want to add anything else? Have you been playing anything since last night?
Not since last night, man.
Right, yeah. Yeah, me neither. I've been busy.
There's this thing called work that
right?
I have to go
and
do
family and, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did do a video of the one of the expansions we'll talk about a little bit later. I put that up on YouTube and on Board Game Geek, the Legendary expansion, but we'll talk about that more later.
Sweet.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead and start.
So we'll go ahead and get started. The first game we're going to talk about is Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn. It's a 2-player expandable card game. Players take on the roles of Phoenixborns, demigods, and protectors of this world. These characters are the great saviors of their civilizations. Before they came into existence, the humans were plagued by monsters like chimeras that took away their lands and forced them to live in walled-off cities. When the Phoenixborns came, they fought off the chimeras and freed the lands for the humans to take over once again. But the time of peace was short-lived. A prophecy arose that if one Phoenixborn was able to absorb enough ashes of others, they would ascend into full gods and take mastery over his world. This, as well as the humans' greed for land, fueled the War of Ashes. The great cities now fight among each other, each one of them with the Phoenixborn at its helm, and you will decide who will rise and who will fall to ashes. Da-da-da.
So Ashes is I would say it's sort of like a CCG, TCG style game, but it's more like a like expandable card game. So similar to like Summoner Wars or like Doomtown or different things like that, where they've got a card game and they expand it as you go along and get more expansions. So the game, you have a deck of cards and each person has a Phoenixborn that they're basically trying to protect, and they're using their Phoenixborn to try to attack the opponent's Phoenixborn. At the beginning of the game, you start with 5 cards in your hand, and the cool thing about this card game, as opposed to a lot of other games in the same genre, are that you actually get to pick what those 5 cards are. Yep. So out of your whole deck, you can't have a terrible starting hand because you got to pick exactly which cards you wanted. In the base box, there's different setups for starter decks, and when we played the game, we played the demo, which just had like 2 of the starter decks that we faced off against each other. Yeah. But each turn, you get a main action. First, everybody rolls their dice. Whoever rolls the most basic symbols is the starting player, and the starting player goes back and forth in between rounds. But you have 10 dice, 5 of each element, depending on your Phoenixborn, and you get a main action to do on your turn. There's a little symbol for that. Main actions can be all sorts of different things, but that's like the majority of what you can do. You can also use your main action to do attacks. So if you use your main action to do attacks, you choose how many creatures are going to go on that specific attack. And then you also have a secondary action. And you can only do one main action and one secondary action during your turn. Secondary actions work just like main actions, except they're secondary actions, and they're normally like minor things. A lot of the actual dice cards have secondary actions on them, and also your Phoenixborn card will normally have a secondary action on it. This game is pretty cool because there's a whole variety of different things you can do on your turn, because as you play the game, you're building up your spell board to put a bunch of different spells that stay in play, and then you also are using your spell board to summon creatures onto the board. So there's a bunch of like summoning spells that you can bring creatures out, which are creature tokens. And basically you go back and forth attacking each other, playing spells. Each Phoenixborn has widely different strategies, and you attack each other until you've taken out your opponent's Phoenixborn. An interesting thing about this game is whenever you're attacking a minion, your opponent's Phoenixborn can defend the minion so that they take the damage instead of the minion. And then whenever you're attacking an opponent's Phoenixborn, the minion can defend the Phoenixborn to stop them from taking the damage. So it's like they help each other from getting hurt. I thought this game was really exciting when we played the demo. There was a lot of awesome stuff going on and so many different options of what to do on your turn. Like you just look at the board and there's like minor action here, major action here. I've got like 3 major actions in my hand, and there's like all these different choices of what to do on your turn. So I'm not going to say it's way more complex than any of those other games. It's not complex at all. You just have you just have lots of options. So it's it makes the choices important to figure out what the best one is, but it's not difficult to make most of the time. I had a ton of fun playing when we played the demo, and I also played a 3-player game with Trevor and JJ, or not Trevor and JJ, with JJ and Braden. So that was pretty fun too. What do you think about this game, Rob?
I am actually very, very happy that I bought the game. I was kind of over Magic the Gathering just because you need to keep up with it all the time. So I'm happy and excited to get involved and start in this. I love the theme, because I really like Highlander, and it kind of reminds me of that, like there can only be one type of a thing. I also, as much as I hate the dice, I also love the dice. I love how it's bringing in different aspects to a card playing game, with the dice, and then being able to draft your own first hand and other things like that. I think it's going to be definitely a big hit for me. I know that there's already a community online for it. Like there's already a Facebook community group where you can go online and do tournaments and things like that. And I know they held the first ever tournament at Gen Con, and so I'm pumped. But I'm a Plaid Hat fanboy, and pretty much everything that they've ever turned out, or Isaac has turned out, pretty much I'm a huge fan of. They've done great work, and this one is definitely it's with that group. I mean, they've just done a fantastic job, and so I'm excited to play some more.
Yeah, there was someone on the Dice Tower Guild that was asking about a game, like a physical game that was similar to Hearthstone. People were like, what would be a good one to play? And people thought that he was trolling because, like, obviously Magic the Gathering is the first choice for that. But I was like, well, Magic, obviously, but the new game Ashes is really cool and really fun and is just coming out. So, and there's a bunch of things in it that are similar to Hearthstone as well. Another thing about the game is, like, if your deck completely runs out, each time you would have to draw a card, you take damage. And there's also a character that specifically, like, ramps that up. So, like, she's not really a mill deck, but kind of. So it's kind of cool because she makes your opponents draw cards faster and then discard cards off the top of their deck, and then also makes them take more damage if their deck's completely empty. And I've never gotten to that point because when I was playing her, both of my opponents scooped because I had too much of a board presence. They're like, oh, well, we quit. Roy's pretty much going to win. And I'm like, come on, guys. It's okay.
You got to finish. You got to finish.
So,
yeah.
But I had a lot of fun. And just seeing all the different combos is what makes like games like these CCGs and stuff like that great, and Ashes is no exception. And the art on this game is stupid amazing. It's like beautiful.
Oh my goodness, Fernanda is so ridiculous, very talented, and I'm really glad that Plaid Hat was able to get her pretty much full time and exclusively for them. So yeah, yeah, the play mats that we were seeing at Gen Con, and then all the artwork on the cards and everything like that on the box. I mean, the artwork, it's not pasted on. Like, it really goes well with the theme. Like, each character, I mean, the whole picture really engulfs everything that's going on. I really liked it. So that's Ash's Rise of the Phoenix Born.
Awesome.
You ready to get to the next one?
Yes.
Now, the next one is in... I heard Eric Lang saying this earlier today, so I need to do it. Blood Rage.
Exactly.
In Blood Rage, each player controls their own Vikings, clans, warriors, leader, and ship. Ragnarok has come, and it's the end of the world. It's the Vikings' last chance to go down in a blaze of glory and secure their place in Valhalla at Odin's side. For a Viking, there are many pathways to glory. You can invade and pillage the land for its rewards, crush your opponents in epic battles, fulfill quests, increase your clan stats, or even die gloriously, either in battle or from Ragnarok. The ultimate, inescapable doom. Blood Rage. Now, real quick, before you get into the mechanics, I watched a video today, and Eric Lang was at the Cool Mini or Not place, and they were doing a preview of everything coming with the Kickstarter backers, and oh my goodness, it looks amazing. So I'm very glad that I did not buy it at Gen Con, that I did Kickstart back it, and I'm very pumped for what's to come. We'll get into that, when all this stuff comes, but anyway. So
Blood Rage. Blood Rage is a board game, which I was trying to explain it to someone else on Instagram, because they're like, what game would you compare Blood Rage to? And I said, there's no game I can directly compare Blood Rage to, because it has so many different elements. So at the beginning of the round, at the very beginning of the game, one of the random locations on the board, I forget how many there is altogether. There's probably like 9 around the outside, and then like 1 in the middle, which is Yggdrasil, the life tree.
I think that's right, because there's like 3 yellow, 3 blue, and like 3 gray, and then
I think there's like
one big middle one.
3 for each one. But one of those is randomly destroyed at the beginning of the game, so it makes it less space. And as the game goes along, more spaces are getting destroyed because Ragnarok is happening, and Midgard is getting torn apart. And basically, the way the turn starts is you are going to be everybody's going to be dealt out cards that you're going to draft. So everybody takes a look at the hand of the cards that they get, and they take one of them, and then they pass it to the left. And then they take the ones from the left of them, and they take another one and pass it around. And these cards are upgrades, which are going to make your units in the game better, and also give you different ways to like maybe gain victory points and different things like that. The upgrades can also be like monsters that you can put on the board. So there's all sorts of awesome upgrades you can get. There are also attack cards, which attack cards are played during battle. So when you get into a confrontation with other Vikings, when you're trying to do a pillage action, you play these combat cards to boost the strength of your Vikings, and that will help determine who wins the combat. And then the other one is quest cards. So the quest cards are a really good way to get more glory in the game. So the victory points of the game are glory, and there's different quests which give you different glory. And most of those are sort of like the area control element of the game, like have the most strength in like the yellow area, or have the most strength over here in the red. And they all have like different names, and they tell you, and it's very thematic and all that. But basically the way it works, after everyone's done drafting, there's a couple cards that get discarded that no one drafts out of like each hand, which is kind of cool. So if nobody picked them, they're just kind of gone. Then everybody takes turns after the first player taking actions. They have a certain amount of rage that they can spend on different actions. Different actions cost different amounts of rage. One of the main ones you can do is you can just spend 1 rage to put out one of your basic Viking units, and you can put it on any space in the board except for in the middle. One of the other actions is you can move guys that's already on the board to another space, and that's one of the main ways to get to the middle. Then you can also take an action to play down upgrade cards. Normally they cost a certain amount. If you upgrade like a unit, then you can immediately put that type of unit onto the board, so that's kind of cool. And then you can also take actions to put down quests, and then you can also take an action to pillage. So once you have Vikings in a space, you can pillage that space. And pillaging, how that helps you is there are different icons. The 3 different icons are, the first one increases your rage. So rage is your action points. So the more your rage goes up, the more action points you have, and the more things you can do on your turn. The second one is like your fighting or your glory. So the more that goes up, the more victory points or glory you get in combat. And the last one is like your axes or whatever, and that allows you to have more Vikings on the board. So you want to upgrade those by pillaging these different locations. Whenever you pillage, though, any Vikings in adjacent territories can come into the battle. Basically, clockwise, people choose. So you can decide you're going to pillage, then a bunch of people can jump in and try to stop you from pillaging and beat you up. One of the cool things about this game is that sometimes dying can be really, really good for you, because there's certain upgrades and certain combat cards that promote you killing off your own units, but then also you can get tons of victory points for actually like winning the combats as well. The way combat works is very simple. It's almost like Cosmic Encounter combat if you didn't have like alliances or anything like that. You just count the number of units you have. So I have 3 guys, and they each have 1 strength, so that's 3 strength, and then we both play a face-down combat card, or everybody involved in the combat plays a face-down combat card, and we flip it over, and we add the number on that to the number of people that I have, and whoever has the highest wins. So it makes it very simple. A lot of the combat cards have special abilities that can like kill off units, or if you lose the battle, you can steal people's rage, all sorts of different things like that. But the game ends after you've gone through all 3 rounds. Whoever has the most glory wins. Also, if you have people in the place that is about to get destroyed, you can see which place is going to be destroyed each round. If you have units in the place that's going to be destroyed, you get like 2 glory for each unit that's destroyed during the Ragnarok event. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Rob, what do you think about this game?
I am so excited / pumped for this game. This will probably be a regular game for me because it didn't feel like that very long of a game. Granted, it's only 3 rounds, and it's not that complicated. And so it's so cool, and the minis are so beautiful, and the whole theme is just like glory and destruction. Like, do you get glory from winning, or do you get glory from losing? And I like that, actually, because like if someone's just beating on you in another victory point game, it kind of stinks because they're the only one getting points. Well, in this game, it allows even the loser to get points, and so the game, I think when I get done playing a full game, I think games are going to be a lot closer than I imagined, just because everyone's going to have a chance to score whether they won or lost. And so I'm super excited. But the minis look so gorgeous, and like they were showing some of the Kickstarter minis that are coming exclusively, and like one of them is like this big. It's this mountain giant that's released. It's like as big as my hand if I were to put it down. It's so amazing. It's so beautiful. I will play this game a lot. I am super excited for this game, and I can't wait for it to get here.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because like depending on what you draft is kind of like gonna show like the strategy that you're gonna take. So if you draft a lot of the good ones that are good for like killing your guys off, people don't necessarily know that until you start doing it over and over again. They're like, oh man, he's murdering us with that strategy.
Yeah.
But there's also,
and everyone has a chance to draft a good card. I mean, because it's your basic draft. Everyone has their own 6 cards in front of them. You take one and you pass. You take one and you pass. And so it's not like one person is just going to have all the good cards. They're eventually going to have to pass them, and you're going to have a chance to get the best card out of your hand. So unless you just don't know what you're doing, or you're not familiar at all with drafting and strategy, then you'll do bad. But if you have halfway of an idea of how to draft or anything, I think you're going to do well in this game. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and once again, the miniatures are ridiculously amazing.
Probably the best miniatures I've ever seen.
Cool,
and not joking.
Man.
It's just the detail. It's just the detail. They're not all big or anything, but like when you can see the wrinkle lines in a small plastic miniature's face, like the wrinkle lines, like it's like when you saw HD TV for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, that's HD. Like you can see the grass. Like that's how it feels with these miniatures. They're
Yeah,
just
we talked
stupid
about
good.
we talked about this game a little bit on like our last podcast, and since then I went back and like looked at like a bunch of the painted minis, like the ones like some people had some pictures of the ones that they had at the booth during Gen Con, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they look so ridiculously good.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to play this game more.
Yes, I'm very ready for it to come out. So that is Blood Rage. So on to the next one. It's Champions of Midgard. Champions of Midgard is a middleweight Viking-themed worker placement game with dice rolling in which players are leaders of Viking clans who have traveled to an embattled Viking harbor town to help defend it against the threat of trolls, Draugr, and other mythological Norse beasts. By defeating these epic creatures, players gain glory in the favor of the gods. When the game ends, the player who has earned the most glory earns the title of Jarl and is recognized as a champion of Midgard.
Nice. Yeah. Champions of Midgard is a worker placement game, which what a worker placement game is each person gets a certain number of workers. Like you start the game off with 3, and you place them on different locations on the board. You take turns going for the first player going around, and as you place them on the board, you get different bonuses. So some will give you food, which can allow you to send your Vikings on journeys, or some will let you recruit Vikings, which can be all sorts of like different dice, which can help you with combat, or you can get wood, which can help you to get like relics and things like that. Or you can go over here and buy a boat, which you can use to get victory points at the end of the game, and you can also use it to sail with your people when all the other boats are taken up. There's all sorts of different varieties on the board of where you can go, and trying to pick them in the right order is kind of like how a worker placement game works. There's tons of different worker placement games out there, but the thing that makes this one really unique is that you're building up basically your Vikings, trying to get a whole bunch of different Vikings so that you can fight off different monsters. There are trolls that are constantly attacking like the city, and if people don't fight them, then they will give everybody negative points. If you go and fight them, you'll be able to get rid of your own negative points and give negative points to someone else, so you can basically sandbag another player. There's also like these White Walker Duragar type people that you have to fight off, and you can get a bunch of victory points for that. And then you can also go on a journey, which means you have to get into a boat and go sail off and have enough food and enough like Viking fighter guys to be able to fight off these giant epic monsters. And there could be tragedies and stuff that happen while you're at sea that can mess up your food and your Vikings and things like that. I am not a huge like Euro style game person. Like I'm super into like thematic games, and as far as like worker placement goes for like the type of person that likes to play games like me, like this is like the best worker placement that I've played, just because it's a ton of fun getting a whole bunch of these Viking dice and then going to do combat and rolling the dice and like seeing how good you do and like getting tons of hits and rejoicing, or you fail the dice roll and it's like, oh man, now I have to spin this to re-roll, and then you finally get it after like spinning a whole bunch of tokens to re-roll. So setting yourself up for success in those combats is kind of what the game is all about, because like that's the biggest way to get points is by fighting monsters. So all the rest of it is setting up for that. So it's a whole lot of fun. Champions of Midgard, it's a brand new game, and it was super hot at Gen Con. I think it like sold out like immediately, and that's from,
the first day.
Gray Fox Games. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. You guys should check it out.
It looks like fun. I don't know. I'm with you. I'm not a big worker placement game guy, and I just seem very spoiled right now by Blood Rage, and so like another Viking theme game, I'm like, worker placement with a Viking theme, or Blood Rage where I literally get points for chopping your head off or having my head chopped off. I'm going to play Blood Rage. So I'll play Trevor's copy. I'll give it a shot. I mean, I'll play any game. I just prefer more Mare Thrash type games. So, but that's Champions of Midgard.
I think that's one of the reasons that I like it a lot, is because it has some of those Amerithrash things in there. I saw some people saying that they weren't super stoked about the game because it has a lot of luck in it. But like, I love dice rolling in games, and I love like dice combat. It's like rolling those dice and seeing all those axes and shields and things like that to help you in combat. It's just like, yes.
I mean, it's one of the most frustrating things in gaming, because like you could be doing so great and then the dice just absolutely murder you, Or I've seen the opposite where somebody was doing horrible and then the dice was just their best friend and they came back and won. So I definitely like that. But that's the Champions of Midgard. The next game we're going to talk about is Cthulhu Realms. Now, if you don't know who Cthulhu is, he is the boogeyman in your closet. He is the bad guy whispering to you at night to do all those horrible things. He is an evil, evil man. And I think the title kind of goes over the whole theme in and of itself. So, Cthulhu Realms is got to do with the Cthulhu universe. And I'll let Roy go more into the mechanics.
Yeah, so Cthulhu Realms is basically very similar to a game called Star Realms, which came out a while back. A very popular two-player game. Cthulhu Realms basically it's a deck building game where you start with a very small deck of cards, and there's a row of cards that you can purchase, and you're playing cards that allow you to purchase more cards, and then you're also playing cards that allow you to do attacks against the other player. When we played this game, we played 4 players. So there's 2 rows that you can buy from on each side of you, and you only attack the person to the right and left of you. But yeah, you draft cards into your deck. When you get a new card, it goes into your discard pile, and once your deck's completely empty, your discard pile becomes your deck. So you're building your deck and your resources and your cards that you're using as you go along, trying to pick out the best cards out of these rows. And they're all going to have different values. So if you get a whole lot that lets you purchase more cards, you're going to be able to get a whole lot more, which would be really awesome. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. Light, simple deck builder. I think it's maybe a $20, $25 game. And we played 4 players, and it actually worked pretty well.
Cool.
Because whenever you play an attack, it immediately attacks both sides of you, which is kind of interesting. So it's you don't have to focus just one way or the other. It just double attacks everybody. So that was kind of fun, especially on those turns where you'd have you'd get 20 attack, which is just ridiculous for this game. And the person that's diagonal from you doesn't get hit by that. They're I'm glad I don't get hit by that. It sucks for you guys.
Yes.
But there's a bunch of things you can get that make it so they have to attack. You can get locations, and it makes them have to attack those locations first. So you can kind of set up a little bit of a defense also, kind of like a creature with taunt in Hearthstone if you play that sort of thing. But yeah, basically you create a building that they have to attack first before they can actually attack your sanity. So this game, it's sanity instead of life points, and when your sanity goes all the way out, you go insane, just like all these other Lovecraft Cthulhu style games. So yeah, what do you think about this game, Rob?
It sounds like fun. I never got into Star Realms. I know that was really big, and it's still really big, but I never really got into Star Realms. And so when I saw this game coming out, I'm a big fan of the Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, Mansions of Madness, and so Cthulhu's definitely in there. And so I was a fan of that. I'm not saying I won't get it.
Yeah.
This one definitely hits more for me than Star Realms, which is funny because I'm more of a sci-fi guy. But I like those other universes, and so I'll probably pick this one up. It looks like a lot of fun. I saw people playing it at the con, and so I definitely want to give it a shot. But I don't know. The card games that I'm more into are the legendary card games.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just for me personally. I haven't played it yet, so I can't necessarily give it a review, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, just imagine legendary where there's no middle row or anything like that. You're just buying cards and directly attacking each other, but it's super quick, and there's tons of combo style cards that let you draw more, and then you get bonuses for playing extra. It's very similar to that sort of thing, but just head on head, simple, quick. That's the point of the game. It's not supposed to take very long, so
yeah.
That's Cthulhu Realms.
Cthulhu Realms. Next is Code Names. And the theme is actually kind of a little bit describing the mechanics, but I'll still go over it. In Code Names, 2 teams face a square grid of 25 word cards. Each team has a captain, and both captains can see, via a hidden picture, which cards belong to their team, which cards are neutral, and which single card is the assassin. In Code Names, each team is trying to take out the assassin. Assuming neither team fails to the assassin, the first team to uncover all of their own cards wins the game. So I didn't play this one either, but it kind of seems like a spy, but like a group spy game. Like you know who's on your team and who's not on your team, and so I guess I'll let you explain all that stuff. But code names.
But yeah, so basically you have your grid of 25 cards, and there's cards that are on different sides. Most of the cards are on either side. There's a couple of cards that are not on either side. They're just like neutrals. And then there's one word that is the assassin, and no one wants to ever pick that word. So the way it works is the person who's the commander or the code master or whatever they're called, they try to think of a word that they can say that would match words out in the grid. But you're trying to think of a word that can match multiples, but only the ones that are on your side. So it makes it kind of difficult to think about how do I say this to make it exactly fit what I'm trying to do. And depending on what your opponent has, it's not going to make them select one of theirs. It's kind of one of those games that you have to like really play to really like understand. But it's very like it feels like a deduction game. Like you're trying to figure out how to deduce what, like if you're a player, you're trying to figure out and deduce what the codemaster is trying to tell you. And if you're the codemaster, you're trying to deduce like what's the best word to use that can simply let your teammates know all the words that they're supposed to pick. And when you say a word, you'll say like, it's like round 3. So it'd be like round, does that mean like circle, or how exactly does that work? And you can say words that are kind of like ambiguous that could mean different things. So like you see on the table, there's like a button and like maybe like a hole and then maybe like a wheel over here. Well, hopefully those would be the right ones, but then there's also some other one over here that could be considered round. So you have to try to figure out and talk amongst yourselves like which ones are which. And depending on the number that they said, that's how many guesses you're allowed to get. And then you also get like a free guess after you've guessed all the other ones. But going around just guessing random words are the right ones is a good way to get killed by the assassin. So a funny story about this game is we were playing it with Rodney Smith. Did I tell you this story, Rob?
From Watch It Played.
Yeah,
yes.
So we're playing this with Rodney Smith, and this was at the Secret Cabal meetup, and we're having a great time. And one of the people that were watching us play the game, he was kind of helping out a little bit, but he said, "Hey man, if Pip, which is one of his like almost co-host sort of guys, if he can guess one of your words correctly, I'll donate $25 to the Kickstarter." And he has to do it completely randomly, and he can't like get any clues from Rodney. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, let's do that and all that. And they're goofing around, and he's trying to look at all the words. He's like, oh, which word would be on our team? But he has like no information whatsoever. He's just trying to mess around, and he picks one of the words. I don't even remember which word it was, but the one word out of the 25 that he just randomly picked was the assassin, and that made everyone think it was hilarious. And we weren't playing the game correctly, but it was just, the game creates such fun times, like when whether you win or lose. Like, it's awesome. Just because, like, you're like, oh, that's what you meant. How did you mean that with that word? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know. We were playing with Brandon, and he said something like Alexander 3 or something like that. And one we did, like, Rome, and then, like, another one we were kind of trying to figure out. But one of the words he actually meant was, like, tomato. And for some reason he was like, Alexander, you know, like Italian, like tomato sauce, ketchup sort of thing. And I'm like, what? What are you even talking about? How does that even make sense? How are we supposed to understand that? So it's like sometimes they can reach really far and you have to try to figure it out. But Codenames is a blast. What do you think about this game, Rob?
It looks like a lot of fun. I am now disappointed that I did not pick it up. I was really excited for Spyfall, and I still think Spyfall is a great game. But with my church friends and my wife and her friends and other groups like that, we really like party games in our house. And so this seems like one of those fun party games that everyone can get involved in. And like you said, win or lose, you're still having a good time. And so I'm definitely going to have to pick this one up soon. But it sounds like a blast. I wish I could have stayed and played.
It was really crazy, too, because, like, when Rodney was playing and stuff, like, everybody was crowded around the table, and there were tons of people, like, on both sides, and everybody on the different sides of the table were just helping out with, like, whichever side they were sitting with. So, like, you could play this game with way more people than it says, just because people trying to figure out what it is and discussing among themselves. But, yeah, that's Codenames.
All right, next is Epic. Do you like dinosaurs? Do you like dragons? Are you a fan of fireballs? And do you happen to like card games? Well, then Epic is the fantasy card game for you. It takes you into the world of fantasy and lets you explore all the different options. Imagine, well, I hate to say it, Magic the Gathering rethemed, but with generic fantasy, but also a T-Rex. I'm looking at the cards and I literally see a T-Rex in front of me. I almost want to play it just for the T-Rex. I hope he can shoot out fireballs. I don't know. I haven't played the game yet. But Epic is a fantasy world that lets you create and do as many things as you can create and do in a card game base.
Cool. So Epic, the mechanics are very similar to other like CCG, TCG style games. Your opponent has a certain number of life points. We played the it wasn't a demo. It was more like a event where we played the game. And basically your opponent had 30 life. You had a deck of 30 cards. You could draw. You started with a hand of like 6 or 7 cards. And it's interesting because all the cards in the game are 1 mana cost and 0 mana cost. So you're allowed to play one mana cost card on your turn. And then on your opponent's turn, you can play like a 1 mana cost spell. So like you always have like cards you can play easily. But then 0 mana cost cards you can also play like as extra ones. So like you get 1 action per turn, and that's your turn and your opponent's turn, and then you do 0. You also only draw 1 card per turn, but basically you're playing down creatures, trying to get them so that they can attack your opponent. Attacking works interestingly in this game. It's almost like banding and redemption. So like if you have multiple creatures, they can all attack at the same time, and then you add all of their values together for their strength, which is very different from the way it works in Magic. So then they could block, and of course you do the damage equal to the amount, and they could block with multiple creatures to try to add up their defense to be able to stop you. But it's very interesting, like the back and forth in this game, just because like it's so easy to play stuff. We played one round where the very first turn I played down like an 8/8 dragon, or no, it was a 10/10 dragon that couldn't be banished, which is basically like banishing is putting them on the bottom of your deck, kind of like exiling, but it's not removed from the game. It just goes underneath the bottom of your deck, so it couldn't be banished. Then my opponent played out a whole bunch of things to add a whole bunch of tokens to the board, so he had like all sorts of zombies and all sorts of things. And then like the next turn I just did a thing that said like banish all cards on the board, but my dragon couldn't be banished, so then I could just swing in with this dragon for days. So it's very interesting, like the really strong cards are really strong, and if your opponent can't deal with them, it's hard to stop them. But also there are so many like kill spells and counter spell, not really counter spells, but like spells that destroy their guys and return their guys to their hand and do stuff like that, and they're also very easy to play. So
would you say it's kind of like overkill, like over the top?
It is very, I mean, I think that's pretty much like the whole gist of the game is like all the stuff is OP. Like every single card I looked at, I'm like, that's ridiculously overpowered. You can play that just on your first turn of the game.
Hold
that's
on.
Ridiculous.
Would you say each card is epic?
I don't know if I go that far. Some of the cards are kind of mediocre. But yeah, we played a couple games where it's just we were playing with these random sort of decks that they had like in the event. And after that, we're just like, that was kind of not the best. So I said, you know what we're going to do? I was playing, it was me, Braden, Trevor, and JJ. So the 4 of us were like, we're going to do a draft. So we just took all the cards that they had given us to play with, and we shuffled them all up. And then we dealt packs of 10. We had 3 packs of 10 each. So just completely randomized. And then we drafted it. And I think that's one of the things that this game is actually going to be really good for is like drafting. Because then you can go around and you can try to get stuff that like works together. So there's like different colors, and the different colors sort of do different things. So you can try to get more of the same color that can allow you to trigger the abilities on different things more. But yeah, I drafted like this deck that had tons of big creatures and tons of just like board wipes and like stuff that would make them discard cards out of their hand. So I had a lot of fun. Once we actually started doing the draft thing, I have no clue how custom deck building would work in this game, because it seems like with all the extremely overpowered cards, there are going to be some that are just better than others, and you can play them immediately on turn 1. It seems like the game would be solvable, you know? Because if you can just like have like the very best cards, it seems like it would be ridiculous, because you can just immediately play this ridiculous card. Because there's a card that's a 30/30 that was a promo. Yes.
And you can play it on your first turn?
Yes.
So you could win on your first turn if you get that card.
Well, not the very first turn, because of course they have summoning sickness, so it takes a turn for them to actually be able to attack. So it's like if you play that card down, and your opponent has no kill spells, no things to return it to your hand, none of that stuff, and they draw poorly, and they get no creatures to block with or something weird. I mean, they'll probably get a creature to block with, but like if they have some way, I think that creature like can't be like, you can't like buff it or put any spells on it that help it or anything like that, so it can't get, it can't get like trample or anything like that. But like if it can get through, it wins in one hit, and you can play that on turn 1. So it seems kind of crazy to me. So Epic is kind of interesting. There's so many other CCGs out there. I'm not sure what the price point is on it, but it's supposed to come with a whole bunch of cards. So I feel like it'd be really good for drafting. That's my verdict on it. What do you think about this game, Rob?
Nope. I have no desire to.
That's kind of like my feeling when I was sitting down. I was like, man, this is crazy. This is like, madness.
It's not going to be fun for everybody involved. And knowing that I'm going to be on the other end sometimes, because like if there's no way to stop me from playing a 30/30 dragon if I draft it or if I get it on my first hand, that's so dumb. Like that's so like I would enjoy that if I could do that every time, but oh my gosh, if I saw somebody pull that out against me, I think I would actually quit. I just get up and walk away. I just be like, no, you win. Like what's the point? You just I mean, the 30/30 dragon. I do like CCGs. They are fun. But for me right now in my life, it's just not somewhere where I want to go that way, so I'm probably not going to play Epic. You know, I may play if somebody has some cards. If somebody has some cards and they want to throw a game together, I try it. I mean, I'll play any game.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to try that.
The interesting thing is, like, if you know how to play Magic the Gathering, you almost already know how to play Epic. It's, like, very close. There's a ton of the abilities in the game are, like, straight from Magic the Gathering. Hearthstone has abilities that are kind of similar, but they don't work exactly the same. In this game, there's flying. It has a different name, but it is flying. It works exactly like flying. Then there is another ability that is trample. It's not called trample, but it works exactly like trample. There's another one that's haste. It's not called haste, but it works exactly the same. Which, I mean, Hearthstone has a little bit of that stuff too. I mean, all these CCGs are very similar, but like
would you say this one definitely feels like a copy and play? Like they just changed the verbiage and maybe did away with mana?
Yeah, they did away with mana. They made it so you could just immediately play overpowered cards. I mean, it's not the same game. There's several other things that work very differently, like the way you can play cards on your opponent's turn. There's also creatures you can play that sort of have flash on your opponent's turn if they have the right keyword. It's different enough to not be the same game, but it is very similar. Yeah. So there's that.
Well, cool. Moving on is next Firefly Shiny Dice. The theme, Firefly. I mean, you either know Firefly or you don't know Firefly. Space pirates, where you're the good guy, even though you're technically bad guys. And these have shiny dice. So, and go.
So, Shiny Dice is basically a dice game where at the beginning of your turn, you roll all this big old stack of dice. There's like supply dice, and then there's character Firefly dice, and then there are like enemy dice. So you put them all like where they go on this little playmat. And then you basically try to figure out the characters that can kill off the enemies the most efficient way so that you can do missions and continue to go forward. I'm not going to do crazy amounts of explaining how to play this game because this game is extremely difficult to explain how to play. Like, for a dice game, it is way overcomplicated. It took us, like, the rules aren't super well written, and then when we were playing it, it just felt like a weird puzzle trying to figure out how to be efficient and kill the enemies off and get your little rewards. And it's supposed to be like pressure luck. So you use a couple dice up, you killed off all the enemies, you did a really good job, and then you can continue on. Well, you could only continue on like once or twice because it would just catch up with you. And you'd either lose or you'd win. I was the only person that like lost a round out of the whole thing. Everybody else played it safe, and so I ended up losing the game. But like for a dice game, you would expect it to be like simple and easy to teach. Like, I would hate to teach anybody how to play this game. It was pretty ridiculous. Like, every single character on these different faces have like several different actions that they can do with that type of character. It's like, this die facing means you can do this or you can do this, and then this die facing means this kills this enemy, or like 2 of this one, and these are supply dice, so these get captured by. It's like really over the top complicated. And I mean, it's not bad if you want to puzzle it out, but like when it's not your turn, you have nothing to do. I mean, you could try to help your opponent figure out how to best use their dice, but that's like not what you're supposed to do. It's not a cooperative game. You're supposed to be hoping that they don't see the good moves. So there's like no player interaction at all. You're just taking your turns and trying to get the most money at the end of the game. I mean, the Firefly theme is, I mean, you're rolling dice, so it's not like super strong or anything. All the different die facings are like name the different characters of the die, and they can probably take out enemies that make sense for them to be able to take out. But I don't know. I'm pretty much a pass on this game. I played it and I lost really bad and I wasn't caring for it that much. And my friends that were doing really good in the game and like had figured it out really well were acting like they liked it. But afterwards they're like, yeah, I pretty much never want to play that game again. So that's our recommendation for the game.
Firefly Shiny Dice.
Do you have anything to say about this game, or you're just pretty much like,
I don't even want to waste. Nope.
Nice.
I'm not going to play it. Next, Forbidden Stars.
Oh my god.
This game is amazing. The shifting warp storms that surround the long-lost Heracon cluster have finally abated, leaving the ancient treasures and planets within this sector open to the rest of the galaxy. Now, the great factions of the galaxy mobilize their fleets and race to establish a foothold. The reward for successful domination surpasses all other concerns, and the price for conquering this sector will be paid in lives. Forbidden Stars.
So Forbidden Stars is like a giant space conquest style game where you're trying to amass armies, upgrade your units, take over more planets, and claim objectives from your opponent. So basically the way it works is on each turn, people are going to be placing down tokens. You're going to have a bunch of different tokens that are going to be different actions, and you're going to place them face down on the board. And then, starting with the first player, you're going to be taking actions from the ones that are still visible. So you're going to be placing your tokens in a stack, so your opponents can actually place their tokens on top of your tokens. So sort of like the first tokens you place are kind of going to be the last tokens you take, but not necessarily. So if like all your tokens are open, you kind of have a choice of which ones you want to take. But any tokens that are covered up, you're not even allowed to look at that action until it's uncovered. So you have to remember where you're placing.
Don't look at
what you're doing. It's very interesting because you can take actions to upgrade your units, get more units on the board, build more ships, and then you can take actions to basically advance and move into different sectors. The way movement works in this game is very much like the ships would work in Game of Thrones. So if there's connected planets, you have to have the open space connected with ships, and then you can kind of move your people along this chain of connected areas with your types of units there to be able to move. So you have to kind of like set up your movement to be able to move far across the board. But the whole point of the game is to claim 4 objectives that are your own objectives, and the objectives are placed on enemy planets around the board. So and they're specific places. Sometimes they're not directly enemy planets, but for the most part they are. And so you basically have to have confrontation with your opponents to be able to steal those objectives. And I mean, you can do some crazy negotiation stuff, like trying to be like, hey man, you let me have this objective, I'll let you have that objective, and let's focus on them over there because they're winning, or some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But depends on if they're actually going to go for that. The combat in this game is very unique. There's a lot of card play in the combat. You have a deck of 10 cards. And at the beginning of combat, you're going to draw 5 of those. So you're going to draw half of the deck. And then you're going to roll a bunch of combat dice depending on the types of units and how many of them you have. And then your attacks are going to be used to take out your opponent, but you're going to get to play cards to manipulate those dice. And the cards also will have like special abilities, like they can wound your opponent's units and all sorts of crazy things. So the combat's very involved because you'll do up to 3 rounds of going back and forth and units dying off depending on how big the armies are. And if one side isn't dead after 3 rounds. It's based off of whoever rolled the most morale dice. So there's a attack symbol, which is like a little bolter, and then you have a defense symbol, which I think has like a shield, and then there's a
like a
morale dice that has like an eagle or whatever. So if you have the most morale when combat is over and neither of the players died, then you will win the combat. And it's very interesting. It's a resource management game, trying to find the different stuff, but it's mostly a combat game. Get in your opponent's face and jump them. There's also these warp storms that move around and try to block movement. And the game is supposed to be like really good even with just like 2 players. So my favorite game is Twilight Imperium. I feel like this game, Twilight Imperium isn't super good when you get down to like the 3 and 2 range. I feel like this game like fills the niche in those lower player count ranges, which is really cool. What do you think about this game, Rob?
I think I am very happy that I bought it. I love the idea that it's really, when you break it down, it's domination. If you're in my spot, I need that spot. I'm coming to kill you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I need that objective to win the game. I also really love the minis in this game on how they're all unique. Each race or each unit, it's its own. You know, it's not all generic, just with different colors. This game does seem like a little complicated, but I like that. I mean, there's definitely strategy to this game. You can't just go in there and not have a strategy in place. You won't win. If you do, you're playing against horrible people or people whose their strategy is falling apart. But so this for me is definitely gonna scratch 2 needs for me. It's definitely gonna scratch my like domination, take over the universe type of thing, and it's also gonna scratch the I want to think a little outside of the box, because you put tokens down like on Game of Thrones, the board game. But in this one, you have to put tokens down in reverse, and you also have to see where other people put down their tokens, because if you put a token down on top of my token in the same sector, I can't do anything in that sector until you resolved your token on top of mine first. And so it's definitely going to require some thinking, but I love that. And so I'm really excited for it. I'm ready to bring it out. I'm also excited. And the third, I guess, itch for me is it's going to be a big, epic, long game, but it's not an all-day game. Like, we could play this game for about 3 to 4 hours and then play another game. It's not going to be like a TI3 where we need to take a day off to play this game. And so, 2 big thumbs up. Very, very, very excited for this game.
Me too. That's Forbidden Stars.
Forbidden Stars by Fantasy Flight. Now, the next game, I have no idea about anything, and they don't have any theme on it. I think you need to make barns and knock them down, I guess. The next game is called Knock Down Barns. I have never heard of this game before until Roy told me that he played it at Gen Con. And so I'm excited to hear about it.
So Knockdown Barns is a game that's made like completely out of like these wooden like blocks that almost look like Jenga blocks, but it's also played on a board that looks exactly like an IKEA cutting board or like something you'd pick up at another place. So there's this divider that goes in between the players, and you have to build a barn with your 25 like Jenga type blocks. And so you're building a structure, trying to make it as stable as possible, and then whoever ends first gets to take the first shot at the opponent's thing. But it has to be as tall as this divider is, so it can't be like super like short and super like compact. You have to actually make it decently tall. And you take the divider away, and you both see each other's barns, and you flick these foam like marshmallow type things at the other opponent's barn until you've basically knocked their entire barn off of the entire cutting board. So it's pretty fun like when you first start flicking, and then after like you've got their barn kind of knocked down, there are rules where once all the pieces are on the bottom, you can move up to the halfway mark on the board and start flicking from there. And once they're all laying completely flat, you can flick from anywhere on the board. But the amount of time it takes to actually knock every brick off of the thing is ridiculous. Either that or we're just really bad at shooting. So me and we played this game at the Secret Cabal meetup. There was this game in a burlap sack, which was Knockdown Barns. it was randomly given as the prize pool for their raffle right at the last minute, and the Secret Cabal had no clue what was in there. My friend's wife, Sam, or Brandon's wife, Sam, won this game. Basically, she won the raffle, and they were going to let her pick, and everybody was chanting burlap sack, burlap sack. And so she ended up picking it, which was hilarious. But not only did me and Brandon play it, and I mean, it's kind of fun, just flicking little marshmallow things at each other's barns, but we also got the Secret Cabal guys to play it, and it was hilarious and fun, but a total waste of time. And I mean, it was just crazy. So pretty random, because I'm pretty sure the game is made in like a guy's literal barn. So
it sounds like fun. I don't know. The only thing I would change is maybe make the thing you flick a little heavier so it could do more damage.
Or make the in condition faster. Like maybe like once they all hit the floor, like that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
Because like me and Brandon were flicking, like we were both complaining because our hands hurt so much from flicking. Yeah. And we were the only people that completed a game. Like once we completed a game, like everybody else was like, okay, I've played enough of this, and they just walked off. The Secret Cabal guys got to the point where they were just throwing the marshmallows at each other. So, but they had a couple, so it was pretty interesting.
I would play it, as an in-between game. It seems like fun. I don't know if I'd go out of my way and get it now since I have Flick 'em Up.
Exactly.
But it seems like fun. And the pictures that you guys took online, it looked like you had a good time. So that was Knock Down Bars. Next game doesn't need a lot of explaining, but we're still going to go into it, and that is Legendary Predator. Legendary Encounters, a Predator deck-building game, is based on the first two movies of the Predator series. Taking on the roles of characters from the films, players take turns recruiting cards for their deck from a central selection in order to improve their deck and defeat Predator cards that are added to the central game board.
Cool.
If you ever played Marvel Legendary, it's that with the Predator theme.
Yeah, for the most part. There's a lot more like cooperative randomness. So this is another deck building game where you have cards to recruit more characters to help you, and then you have cards to fight that allow you to fight off your opponents. When I played this game, we played as the Predators trying to fight off the humans. So we were playing completely cooperative, but I don't think it was supposed to be, because there were a lot of cards that were supposed to make you attack each other. But yeah, you have a line of human cards that are coming out of this deck that are basically going to give you damage if they actually come out to the combat zone. So you're trying to find a way to finish them off and prevent yourself from taking damage, because when a character dies, that ends the game, and everybody loses if you haven't defeated the final boss, which is shuffled near the bottom of the deck or like halfway through the deck, so he can come out at a later time. I've played tons and tons of Marvel Legendary. This was the first time ever playing the Encounter series with the Predator. I've never played the Aliens one. Have you played the Aliens one, Rob?
No, I have seen it played, but I own both the Aliens one and now the Predator one.
Nice.
Just more in my collection of games that need to be played.
But yeah, it's very similar.
And hold on real quick, if my wife was listening, I've played all of these games. Thank you so much for letting me buy them, because I actually got yelled at earlier today. So I've played everything. I love you so much.
But yeah, it's interesting. I liked it because I loved like the the legendary like thing. I like the cooperative stuff. But playing the game, I don't know if it was just the basic sort of setup that we had, but it felt like the cards coming out of the Predator deck weren't like super amazing. Like every time I play Marvel Legendary, there's all these crazy cool combos and like super strong characters, and like you're drawing a bunch of cards out of your deck and playing a bunch and getting like super strong attack. I never felt that way playing the entire time playing like Legendary Encounters. Like it didn't seem like there were extremely good cards that I could actually get.
But would you say though, in its defense, does that have something to do with that you're not really a Predator fan? Like when we played Secret Wars and you saw Thanos, you were like, oh my gosh, Thanos, like that's ridiculous.
Well, the thing is, I went and looked through the deck trying to find like the good cards. I'm like, where's the good cards that I really need in my deck? And I mean, we had a couple cards that were kind of cool, like they would heal people and stuff like that. Like you could like take wounds off of other players, and there's that kind of like the sort of cooperative thing, because that's kind of a different thing. Like the players themselves can actually die in this game, which can't happen in Marvel. But I was just looking for something that like oh my gosh, this gives you like 5 attack, and then you get to draw like 2 cards and play, and like some cool combos. But like
nothing like that.
None of us were getting that, and it might have just been the setup that we have, because it's the same game. It just seems like it might be underpowered compared to where Marvel is at this point, because I'm so used to playing with these crazy overpowered superheroes and stuff.
Yeah.
Since Legendary Encounters is basically supposed to be a fully cooperative game, they may have scaled back the stuff, but it seemed a little bit less exciting not being able to be like, and I do this and do this. I would normally just draw a hand of cards and be like, okay, I have this much attack, I can kind of beat this guy. So I beat that guy. But it was still a lot of fun. I'd still say
I'm still excited to play it. I'm glad I bought it. I know it was one of the big ones in the con. Like, I think it sold out in the first day, if not the first day, by the second day. And so I'm pumped for it. I really like the Predator movies and the Alien movies. And so hopefully I'll get it to the table soon. But that is Legendary Predator. The next game, if you're having a bad day and you need that superhero, why don't you try Rhino Hero? Super Rhino presents players with an incredible, heroic, and regrettably heavy rhinoceros who is eager to climb a tall building and leap other tall buildings in a single bound. First, though, you need to construct that building. Rhino Hero.
So this game is a Haba game. So Haba makes tons of amazing kids games, and this game is basically no exception. So this game basically is a dexterity style game where you start with like one card that has little symbols on it that show you where to put walls. So you put those walls on there, and then each player takes turn playing cards from their hand. And as you play a card from your hand, you place it on top of the cards that are already built, and then it shows you where to put the walls on your card. So you're going to be building this building up and up and up. And if you knock down the building, then you're basically out of the round, and the other players still build up the building, and you see who's the last person actually standing. You can also win the game if you get rid of all the cards in your hand, and the cards also have several different special abilities on them. So there's one that like skips the next player, which could actually be really good for the next player, because if the building's like this tall, you might not want to put any cards in there, because it's really hard to actually do it with it surviving. And there's one that reverses the play order. It's kind of very like the card play is very similar to like almost Uno-ish. And you're trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand to win, which it very rarely ends that way. It normally ends with people knocking the building over a couple times and you being the last person standing. But then the coolest card is there's one that has a rhino on it. So whenever you play the rhino card, the next player has to move that rhino onto the space. So you play a rhino card, you put the walls up there, the next player has to take the rhino from the place he is currently in the building off, and then put the rhino on a new place, which can kind of like disrupt the balance of the building. We demoed this game. It's a silly, light, fun dexterity game, and me and the other 2 guys I was hanging out with, we immediately bought it. It's like a $15 game, an awesome kids game, and it was a blast. They were saying that it was the game of the con for them. Like, this was the best game they played the whole time. They played tons they played it over and over again. Like, it was a ton of fun. We played it at the Secret Cabal meetup, and it was awesome. We played it like back at the hotel. We played the demo like a couple times. They played it at a bar, like a completely different bar separate from us. Like, we were playing Rhino Hero everywhere. So Rhino Hero was a blast. And for the price
I am excited for those types of games. I mean, because you have your kids, I've got my daughter, and so this looks like fun. I'll probably pick this up. What would you say is like a good age, though, to start Rhino Hero?
So the actual age on the box, I think, is 5. It is a dexterity game, so sometimes it's a little bit harder. But actually, I sat down with my son, and this isn't any official variant or anything like that, but I kind of made up a way to play the game, and it was actually really fun. So we were playing it semi-cooperative, where we're trying to not knock down the building, and I took all the other cards out except for the rhino cards. So I would play a rhino card, I'd put the walls on there, and I'd say, Scotty, get the rhino and put it on the card. So he would carefully get the rhino and try to put it on the card. And I'd be like, yay, we did it. You put the rhino on the card. High five. Now I play the next card. I put the walls on there. Now get the rhino and put it on the card. So we would try as carefully as we could to build a constructed like building that wasn't messed up. And we just did it cooperatively, and I think we got up to like 6 stories, and they'd knock it down, and then we get back up to like 5, and they'd knock it down. I mean, it was fun to like test dexterity and try to see how far we could go without a 2.5-year-old knocking the building down. But even just that was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So that's not an official variant. That's something I totally made up, but I probably need to post that on a board somewhere because it was a lot of fun.
Well, cool beans. Well, that is Rhino Hero. Next is Runebound. Runebound is a classic adventure game from Fantasy Flight Games in which mighty heroes must take on their perils of Terranoth. The game can be largely played without conflict between the players, but victory can only be claimed by the first player to defeat the Dragon Lord Margath. So the players are actually in a race to level up and acquire powerful weapons, armor, and allies in order to take on the final adversary, Dragon Lord Margath. Runebound 3rd edition should be out later this year. Again, released by Fantasy Flight Games. Now you've got 2nd edition, correct?
Yes.
And you demoed this. So
yes. So this is the brand new Runebound that isn't out yet. I demoed it at Gen Con. Basically, it is like your typical like fantasy adventure game where you start with a character that has a few abilities and certain stats, and you try to upgrade those stats and abilities and get better items and magic equipment and stuff so you can take on the final boss at the end. The way it works is you have, I think you have 3 actions each turn. You can use those actions to move. So when you move, you roll these dice that have different terrain symbols on them, and you spin those dice to move across those types of terrain. You can use any terrain symbol to move along the road, so moving along roads is a lot easier. You can also like just take an action instead of rolling the dice to just move one space. Like if you're having to move across water, it's really hard to roll a water symbol, but you can just move that one space to get where you're trying to go a little bit easier, which is different from 2nd edition. A lot of times you'd be trying to get on a mountain and you could never get there, and you'd just be rolling and rolling and rolling until you actually got there. So it takes a little bit of that randomness of that out. But then also you can go, there's a lot of places around the board that have different types of quests. So there are like combat quests, there are quests that are more like actual quests, and then there are quests, there's like 3 different types of quests that all have to involve different things. Some of like the combat ones will normally be like a creature that you have to fight off. And the way combat works in this game is you roll like you shuffle up and roll like these coins almost. They're like 2-sided discs that you basically have a 50% chance of getting either symbol. And each character has different ones of those. One of the symbols on there is like attack, another one is defense, which can counter attack, and then there's ones that are lightning bolts, which give you special abilities. And then there are ones that will double discs that you currently have there. You set it on top of there, and now it becomes 2 of that. So if you add like a damage, you could like double that. This is very unique combat with the whole disc thing, which is completely different than it was in 2nd edition. And it seemed like there's a lot of tactical choices you can make during the combat. So you roll the discs, and then you got to figure out which order you're going to use them in, and figure out which abilities you can trigger to best like counter the discs your opponent have. There's certain ones where you can make them like reflip a disc and things like that. So a lot of that strategy can help you out in combat. But then the other types of like quests you can find are ones that'll tell you to go to like a specific location, or like, hey, pick up this good here and then go drop it off there. So there's all sorts of like different quests. Each time you complete one of these quests, you turn it over and it becomes a trophy. And then you have all these like ability cards that you spend trophies on to put into play, which basically just upgrade your character. You can also spend those ability cards to re-roll, like spend them as in just discard them and not use them. You can use those ability cards to re-roll dice when you're moving, and so that helps out your movement a little bit. And then you can also just take an action to just draw a whole bunch more ability cards that you can hold in your hand. So you can kind of try to get the ability cards you want to have on your character during the game. There's a lot going on in this game, and it all comes down to beating the final boss and doing what you have to do to beat the scenario for the game. The game comes with 2 scenarios. One is like a dragon, the other one's like some undead lord you have to fight off. But it's a very interesting fantasy adventure style game.
I am really excited for this game because I am a Fantasy Flight fanboy. I haven't played any of the Runebounds before. However, it was done by Fantasy Flight. So I will probably get this game. Maybe not right when it comes out, but it's definitely on my radar. The one thing, though, I do remember when we talked to Chris Peterson at the end, there was a guy in front of us who asked Chris a question about this Runebound, if it's going to be compatible with the second and first edition Runebounds because of the different characters that are coming in, or the different characters that were established in the expansions. And Chris did let us know that they're really not going to. Some mechanics are changed, and they're excited for some of the future things. And so this one is kind of standalone. So anybody that has like a collection of the previous Runebounds and their expansions, you're going to have to keep to those. Your game does not keep going on. It looks good. I saw some people demo it. It looks fun. Again, I haven't played a Fantasy Flight game that I haven't liked.
Yeah, the art and stuff in this game, like I have the old edition, and I mean that was made like years ago.
Yeah.
So like the art and stuff in this game, the way the board looks, like everything just looks beautiful, like you would expect from a Fantasy Flight game. So I'm excited to definitely like play this game more.
Sweet. Well, that is Runebound. Next game on our list is Ryu, not to be mistaken with the Street Fighter character. Ryu, right? Hadouken. Anyway, in a galaxy far, far away, there's a planetary system composed of a great big sun and 9 minor planets, 4 of which have been developed as mercantile planets, more or less under the control of politicians and guilds. On each of these planets are a merchant guild, a guild of smugglers, a bazaar, and the galactic government. And players take special actions on each of these planets. Ryu.
So in Ryu, you're basically taking your little dragon meeple around to these different hex tiles. There are 9 hexes all around in a circle. Each player has like a home planet, and there are several other planets that will do like different things depending on different tokens you can spend and different ways you can activate those. You start the game with these yellow tokens, which are like these yellow cubes, which are like your energy cubes, and you can spend those mostly to do a lot of the actions on these different planets. But basically, this game has a bag slap full of all these cubes, which are the different types of cubes you need to upgrade your dragon. So you're trying to get your dragon fully upgraded so that you win the game. If you get all 5 components of your dragon made, you are declared the winner. It's very abstracted as far as the game goes, but it's like a very good like light family game. So you're moving around. When you go to a home planet of another player, you can pay 2 yellow cubes, you get like an exploration token, and then you and that player will get a share of more cubes, and you're trying to make sets. So it's like a cube collection set matching game, but it's very light and simple to play. There's also a white cube in the bag. When that's pulled out, everybody has to bid on the correct. Whoever bids the highest gets to automatically build one of their dragon pieces, but everybody else who bids, they lose all the money or all the cubes that they bid. It's very much a cube game, but it's still a light family game, and it's very interesting to play to figure out how to best move around and take the actions on the different planets. And it's got really nice artwork with dragons. So that is Ryu. What do you think, Rob? I'm sure you fell asleep as soon as I said cubes.
It sounds nice. I don't know, man. I just have so many games in my collection right now that are not cube-based, that are plastic mini-based, and it sounds fun. I do like the idea that you have to bluff and bid, and there's dice drafting and things like that. And so I'm not saying I won't try it, because there are some games by Academy Games that are cube-based. They're not known for their components. They're known for the quality of game. And so if the quality of game of Ryu was there, I don't care about that so much. But at the end of the day, though, it doesn't sound like something that I'm necessarily in. Like, if I can't bluff and then blow up your planet at the same time, like, it's not for me.
I think this game fits really good with the people that like Takinoko, or maybe even like.
Now, see, I do like that game though.
So if you like games like Takinoko or maybe like Sailors of Catan, it feels like that sort of weight of a game, like an intro family style game. You could play it sort of like with anyone. So
just to clarify, I like the panda in Takinoko.
What about the gameplay? What about the building the bamboo?
The gameplay isn't bad. The gameplay isn't bad.
Specific cards to get points. It's sort of.
Every time I've played the game, I've won Takinoko. It doesn't seem very difficult. I mean, It's very easy to manipulate. But I bought Takinoko so I could play with my daughter and other children as they get older.
Yep, I feel like it's a good game that would work along those same lines.
Yep. So I may look into it, but Haba. This is like the second or third time now I've talked to somebody, and you said it earlier, where they said Haba is the place to be. So on kid games, that's probably the general direction I'm going to go into at this time.
Right.
Just
and
because they have
like,
a proven
kids.
track record.
Yeah. This would probably be better for like, I don't know, once your kids are in their like preteen years and stuff like that, it'd be really good.
Yeah.
But that is Ryu.
Ryu Hadouken. Next is Legendary Secret Wars. This is Legendary Secret Wars. If you've read a comic book, if you've seen a Marvel movie, imagine everybody hating each other and fighting each other. Captain America eats Iron Man's corn dog, and so Black Widow has to kick Wolverine in the face, but then Colossus has got to fight Spider-Man, and then Thanos is like, hey, I want to be a good guy, play with me, but he's not a good guy. It's ridiculous. It's amazing.
He's killing off bystanders left and right. You're like, hey, man, like, that's not cool.
Yeah, he actually does have the ability knock out a bystander and get points for it. So he's like, oh, no one's looking, pow, and just like kill the dude. It's a lot of fun, but again, it's in the Legendary Marvel Universe. I'll let Roy go over the mechanics, but a great game. I will say real quick, this is probably, in the Marvel Universe, my favorite expansion thus far. Really, really a lot of fun. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, so Legendary, I mean, the gameplay is very similar to the Predator game that I just talked about. It's deck building where you have your recruitment and your fight, and you're using both of those values to fight off bad guys and trying to get more recruitment so you can buy better guys. This one is off of the Secret Wars comic books that are currently going on right now, which is like this huge like mashup of all these different Marvel worlds collide and alternate dimensions where characters are fighting versions of themselves. And so this has tons of like heroes you can fight against because they're from a different dimension. It also has like the zombie characters. It comes with like 14 new heroes, like 4 new masterminds, like 6 or something new villains, and then like 3 new henchmen. It comes with tons of stuff. So this is another big box set for Legendary. Yeah. If you like Legendary, you'll like this. It comes with tons of cool characters like Thanos and Black Panther and Doctor Strange and another Iron Man, because you can never have enough Iron Mans, and another Wolverine, because now you got to have Old Man Logan. So third Wolverine's the charm.
Which I read those comics. Those are actually a lot of fun.
But yeah, it's just all sorts of crazy alternate reality characters for the Marvel Universe.
Well, I loved it because while like we're playing, you know, as the villains come across, like they're going into the city, like I had to kill Cyclops. Like that was just so cool to me. Like, and it's not cool. I actually really like Cyclops as a character.
But the awesome thing is like when you're playing Cyclops and you have to kill Cyclops,
right?
So
it's like
oh,
man,
I can be the only Cyclops. You can't be Cyclops because I'm Cyclops.
That's right. It was a lot of fun, and I think I was Wolverine when he killed Cyclops too. That's what I was using.
That's the way it should be.
And it really because that's how I wanted. I wanted Jean Grey to go with Wolverine or Logan, but that's a different story. But anyway, Legendary Secret Wars, fantastic game. If you're a Marvel Legendary fan, highly recommend you pick up this expansion.
And I go even more in depth on our YouTube channel, so you can check out a video there if you want to learn more about it.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Next.
We're wrapping up, folks. We've only got a couple left. The next game is Spectre Ops, personal favorite. Freaking love this game. But the theme is a secret agent of ARC has infiltrated a top-secret Raxxon facility. Attempting to complete 3 mission objectives before they escape, they are hunted by genetically modified Raxxon hunters. Players can choose which side they wish to join. Da-da-da-da, Spectre Ops.
So Spectre
by
Ops...
Nazca Games.
Spectre Ops is a hidden movement game. So basically, what a hidden movement game is one person has a character that is moving around the board, but it's not actually on the board. They're using a tracker sheet to track where they're moving. And in this game, you're trying as the is it called the spy or the agent?
There's an agent, and then there's hunters.
So yeah, the agent is trying to move around and get to these different objectives on the board. Normally he has to be adjacent to those objectives and let the players know that he's going to claim it on his next turn. And so he's trying to get
Steven, you have to be adjacent to the objective. Sorry to interrupt. Steven Spangler, I'm calling your name out. You have to be adjacent to the objective to claim the objective. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's an inside joke. But anyway, Steven, you have to be adjacent to it.
Okay, so you get up on it and you let them know that you're going to be there, so it kind of gives them an idea where you are. And then actually they don't know where you are. They just know you're near one of them somewhere, and they can get a general idea. But you're trying to get your 3 objectives out of the 4, and it's probably different depending on the number of players.
Well, actually, if you play with 4 or 5 players, the objectives are not on the board. And so they're going to say they're going to complete an objective. You have no idea where. Because on a 2 to 3 player board, you put the objectives down. Now, you don't know which one they're going to complete, but there can be on different areas, and you kind of have a roundabout area. Okay, he's within 4 spaces of this one, this one, this one, or this one. On a 4 to 5 player game, the objective remarkers are removed from the game, and then you only place them on the board on the tile accordingly once you've completed it. So it makes it a little bit harder for the hunters.
That's crazy. So there's different variations to scale the game depending on the number of players. But then the hunters are trying to find that character, and if they see them like within line of sight, they can like go over there and make attacks and all sorts of stuff, and they're trying to do enough hit points worth of damage to kill the agent. So the hunters are working together as a team. They have a car that they can drive around. There's line of sight rules. There's combat rules. The agent can never hurt the hunters, but the hunters are there to kick this agent out of their facility and make them pay for coming in here trying to steal their stuff. It's a very awesome game, lots of fun. I love these like hidden movement, sneaking around games, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the best one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely the best one. The theme is amazing. The minis are amazing. I love the board and the quality of the board. It's super cool. But I also love like the player, whoever's the agent, their little player board. It's just the game is so well done. And I know it's well done when my wife likes the game. Like when I say, "Do you want to play Spectre Ops?" She's like, "Okay," like because she's not a board gamer. But this game is it's a lot of fun, and every character is amazing. It's some of the. I've won every single time I've been an agent. And I haven't won yet as a hunter. I should have won the last time I played as a hunter, but again, that's for Steven Spangler. And we'll definitely there's an asterisk by that one. But I want to play it as a hunter because I have some crazy strategies. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely up there in my top games of all time. And this is definitely easily my favorite hidden move game ever. But that's Spectre Ops by Nazca Games, produced by Plaid Hat Games. Our next game on our list, and this is our second to last game, I know we're taking some time, we're wrapping up, is Spyfall. Spyfall is a party game unlike any other, one in which you get to be a spy and try to understand what's going on around you. It's that simple. Everybody else in the party gets a card, you included. One card says spy, all the other cards say location, and you're trying to figure out where everyone else is. Spyfall.
So the mechanics are pretty much the same thing as that. Everybody has a location, and then one person is a spy, and they're trying to figure out what that location is. There's a certain amount of time in the game. I think we were playing like 15 minutes when we played. But basically, people take turns asking questions. So one person will start asking a question, and they're trying to ask a question of a person, which will allow them to, by the way they ask the question and the way the other player answers the question, let the people who are not the spy know that they know what they're talking about. It's sort of like everybody has this inside joke except for the spy, and you're trying to figure out who doesn't understand the inside joke. And as the spy, you're trying to figure out what that location is, what that inside joke is, and if you actually figure it out, you can flip over your spy card and say what it is. If people want to accuse a player of actually being the spy, then all the other players have to unanimously vote to actually say that person is a spy. If they actually are the spy, then all the other players win. If they're not the spy, then the spy wins. So it's very much a game of deduction of like how people answer the questions and trying to be witty about how you answer them without giving too much away. It's a very fun game and a blast, and can lead to very funny moments. What do you think of this game, Rob?
I really love it. I'm very glad I was able to pick it up. We got to play a couple rounds at Gen Con.
Right outside the Dice Tower
Yes,
thing
while
right
we
before
were
it
waiting
started.
for the Dice Tower. It's a blast. I got to play one round as just a normal person, and then I got to play one round as the spy. Um, it definitely is like one of those games where if you're the talker, people immediately think you're the spy. Like I remember the very first game, we were playing with complete strangers in our group, but like you and I were kind of talking and leading the way in things.
Uh-huh.
And one guy said, "I want to take a vote. Rob's the spy. I just want to vote. I don't know what it is, but Rob's the spy." And I wasn't, but I like that. It's fun. It brings people together. It's goofy, and like I would I would suggest if you've never played the game before, make sure you look at the map that has all the different locations and study it before you start playing. Because the one time I was the spy, I kind of thought I knew where they were, but I didn't know what the exact location was, and so I didn't want to come out and say something and be off. And so like the whole time I'm telling Roy, "Oh man, look at this artwork. It's so beautiful. They really did a great job. Look at this."
I don't know why we didn't accuse you. Like it
And
was
and I'm
so
literally
dumb.
just looking just so I can see where are they? Like where are they? And so it was fun. We had a blast. We made some quick friends and a really good time. And it's a simple, fast game. Like the timer's 15 minutes, and you can make it shorter. And I think both of our games were like under 10 minutes, so we
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah.
go the full 15. So a
But I
lot
still,
of
if people were taking too long, I still like to be like, "Hey, we only have so however many minutes left. Let's go.
yeah.
Ask
No,
some
it's
questions."
definitely good to have the timer. I'm just saying, like, I would possibly make the timer shorter, like 12 to
Yeah, yeah.
10 minutes. But great game, really liked it, and that is Spyfall, another hot one for the con. The last game on our list, New York, 1901. Relive the dawn of modern New York City, the historic years that made it what it is today. Build bigger and higher skyscrapers on some of Lower Manhattan's most iconic streets. Raise one of four legendary skyscrapers: the Park Row, the Singer, the Metropolitan Life, or the majestic Woolworth, and make one of them the crown jewel of your real estate empire. That is New York, 1901.
So in New York 1901, we played the basic game, which I think is pretty similar to the regular game. But you're basically trying to build up buildings, and you get points for building buildings as you build bigger and better ones. You start out with one little location, and you're trying to get these cards which show different types of plots of land which correspond onto the board. You take those cards, and then you're allowed to immediately build buildings that fit in those shapes. Or you can put like a worker guy down to show that you own that plot. And as you expand your plots, you can build bigger and better buildings. And then you basically have your like copper tier, which are worth lower points, and then you get your silver tier, which are worth more points, and you get your gold tier. And there's also special buildings. So you're building buildings to get points. And it's a very like little strategic game trying to figure out how to build your buildings and then block off other people from building their buildings, because you can take plots that they want and things like that. It's very much a Euro-ish get points, run around the outside of the board to get points, but it's also very like light family style game of that sort of version of game. So I think if you like Ticket to Ride or once again like Takinoko, games like that, this fits right in there with that sort of niche if that's your style of game. What do you think, Rob?
I actually do want to get this game. Maybe because in my profession I am a realtor and I am from New York.
Yeah.
Not from the city. I'm from upstate, but it does look like fun. I do like the idea of building my own empire in a way, and I do like history. And there was a lot going on in New York at that time in 1901, and it really was like the beginning of an era. And so I am excited for it. I am still a little bit on the hype train because this was also another really big game at Gen Con. People were rushing to get this. In fact, I think it actually sold out before Gen Con. They may have done some releases later in the week, but the games on Thursday, all the people that bought like their exhibitor badges or press release badges, like it was sold out. You couldn't buy a copy on Thursday. I think our friend Trevor got it, but
I had to stand in a super long line.
he had to stay in a super long line, and he paid some extra money to be in there before anybody else, and so it wasn't available to us mere mortals. um, but I am excited for it. It does look like a lot of fun. But that's New York 1901, probably one of the only few Euro games I'll ever buy.
And
at this point in my life.
And that's on the super light end, like Ticket to Ride Euro.
Yeah, and I have Ticket to Ride, but that's just because it's an iconic game. Like, you can't have a game collection without Ticket to Ride. However, I do have that broken because I don't have Settlers of Catan, but I need to get it just so I can say, yes, I have Settlers of Catan. But anyway, so Roy, we've gone over all these different games, and there's probably more games that we would love to have played, but there's so much going on at Gen Con all the time. I had a blast. I know you had an absolute blast. We just need to play more games, man. Like, it just seems like talking about all these games, and then the games that we missed that we weren't able to demo, like the games that we saw being demoed and the games that we saw being described. Like, there was this one Cool Mini or Not game that the whole board was two pirate ships back to back, and they were fighting each other, and it just looked so amazing. I can't remember the name of it. I know that there's a lot of different things that I want to play. Is there anything else that you wanted to play that you weren't able to play?
I really wanted to play Mysterium, but it was like being demoed like back in this corner with all these people with robes on, and it was
and there was a wait
intimidating.
Line. Yeah, you had to like sign up for the waiting line.
Yeah. So I wasn't gonna sign up to wait into a line for a demo, but I'm sure I'll play that one eventually.
The only other game I really wanted to demo was The Others, which is not out yet, by Eric Lang, of course.
Oh my gosh, those minis are so creepy.
Those minis are so creepy. And if you guys saw any of our pictures, he was actually demoing that game when I just was like, look, you're too busy. Can I just get a picture with you? But I was asking him about the game, and he said, do you like destruction and do you like death? And I said, for not in real life, no, but like in board games, yes. And he was like, this is your game. Like, he was like, you just die in this game. And when I was listening to the guys talk about the game, it is like really like bad in an awesome way. But the guy was like, if I go in this room, I'm going to get this disease and I'm going to die. And if I go in here, these things are going to come kill me. And if I go down here, these things are going to come kill me. So if I go down this one spot right here, I have like a 20% chance of dying. Like, his best chance of survival was at 20%. I love that. I love just like being backed in a corner and just seeing how long I can last or until I run out of bullets. And so I really wanted to demo that game. I didn't get that chance. Again, it was another Eric Lang game. And then, of course, which won't come out till next year, and my heart will explode when it comes out, and that is Seafall. That's going to be exciting. But also, I think with you, too, they didn't demo it there, but they displayed it. Tail Feathers from Flathead Games. That looks amazing. And we found out the Mice and Mystics and the expansion, Downward Tales,
all works with it.
The Tail Feathers is going to come with cards for those figurines. So those figurines already work. And so super excited about that. Really, really pumped.
So I was slightly interested in Tail Feathers just because like it's so amazing, but it's supposed to be like a miniature style game and stuff like that. So I'm like, I don't know if I need another like miniature style game. But then they're like, oh yeah, all those minis that you have in your Mice and Mystics and all the expansions already works with it. And I'm like, what? Sign me up. The miniatures are beautiful. The game looks amazing, and Jerry hasn't led us astray yet. So
no,
I think it's going to be great.
And what a great idea, making the game backwards compatible.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Love that idea, because if you're a fan of the universe, you still get to use those people. I mean, very smart by the company, because now, to be honest, I want to go buy Downward Tales.
Yeah.
And not so much to play Downward Tales, but I know I'm going to get Tail Feathers, and so I want to be able to have those creatures and stuff like that for that. And so, great idea. Really excited. So, I think that's it. Roy, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. That's pretty much going to be a podcast, guys. Let us know.
You guys are the best.
Let us know if you liked just randomly talking about a whole pile of games. We just did this because like we had a what you've been playing section, and it's way too many games to just throw into one what you've been playing. So we decided to just get on here and throw this together. So let us know if you like it. We stream our normal podcast every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. And then we play board games on Fridays from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also on Twitch. And that's www.twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Epic Gaming Night. Make sure to hit us up on iTunes with reviews. Just hit us up everywhere. YouTube.
Yes, and
all
we'll
that
be
stuff.
playing games tomorrow night. Twitch, our Friday night special that happens every Friday night. And so pretty pumped to get back into that. In fact, I feel very strongly that I will be there. And
I'm
so,
holding you to it.
right? And so you guys have a great night. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. We definitely appreciate all the things you guys do. You guys are awesome.
You're the best. Except for
best
you, Steven
around.
Spangler. Steven Spangler, you're not the best.
You know what you did.
You're still amazing, but you're not the best.
Hey, I'm going to claim an objective next turn. Are you sure?
Like,
Peace.